Folks, I got a text. I do not have a text, but I do have a great guest today to talk about all things Love Island, but also to go deeper than that and talk about what it's like to date in the modern age. We have this amazing author with us today. Her name is Rebecca Jennings, and she has a new book called Be the Bombshell, What Love Island Teaches Us About Dating, which comes out this week. So it is a part like cultural critique, part a dating survival guide, and also it is just, I think, a love letter in some ways to Love Island, which the new season of Love Island USA, we are right. I think it comes out like the next week. So we are right there. So this book gives a nod to all of those Love Island isms, but also kind of takes you through what it's like to date in this world that we live in right now. I burned through this book in 2 days. She also just wrote this fabulous article for Vulture about Summer House called Summer House is for the Girls, and I really do agree. So this should be a great conversation that does all things this book and some things Bravo. The one and only Rebecca Jennings is here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
First off, I mean, this is kind of a brilliant idea for a book, is to take the entrance point of Love Island and then extrapolate about just dating. I mean, when did this idea come to you?
So I can't claim credit for the idea. So actually last year when I was working at Vox, I had written this story about how for the first time ever, Love Island US was like outpacing Love Island UK in terms of like the drama, like it was just so compelling. The friendships were just so fun to watch. It was messy, but like heartwarming at the same time. And so I'd written this piece about how for a long time, Love Island UK had been kind of the dominant franchise. It had kind of cast a shadow. It was always the better one, you know, like, let's just be real.
Totally.
Yeah.
And by the way, and also for American audiences, it was that kind of thing that you could be a little bit of a cultural snob about, of like, well, I watch Love Island UK.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people did yet.
Yeah. And like the UK's reality TV world is so different from ours. Like, I think looking at our world it's so much more like prudish, and like they like swear they get like naked on British reality TV shows. It's just, and like, it's messier. Like the women are less concerned with coming off as like, I'm a girl's girl. Like everybody, I have to be friends with everybody. They're like, no, you're a slut. It's so messy and a little dark sometimes. But anyway, so I'd written this thing about how for the first time, Love Island US was really, really good. And, you know, they had this cast with such great charisma, and it was so great. And then Simon & Schuster reached out to me being like, do you want to write a book about Love Island? And I was like, sure, like about how great the show is. And they're like, well, how, you know, we can take lessons from the show and turn it into dating advice. I was like, okay, like, let's do it.
Well, and at first when I went into this, I was like, oh, how far can you go with this? But I was actually really intrigued the entire way through. And listen, obviously the obvious thing here is I'm not a woman. And I think this primarily is for women, even though I think men should read this as well, because I was finding I was diagnosing myself. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of a retriever, or I have certain loserish qualities, because there's a whole section of your book where you're talking about the different dog types, as you know, when it comes to men. But it is great because it wasn't exactly what I was thinking it was going to be. I thought it was like, oh, there's going to be way more of this deep history about Love Island. And you do use so many examples through the show, but you're able to talk about what people face in this world right now with dating. And I got to say, it seems pretty bleak, Rebecca.
Yeah, I know, it really does. And I will say, like, so much of that was my editors being like, no, we need like takeaways. We need firm takeaways. So I think it really is one of those books where it's like, you might expect to be reading about like the history of Love Island or whatever. And it's like, no, this is like, will actually like, hopefully, you know, make you think about your own dating life and how you can kind of make it a little bit kind of more like Love Island in the good ways and less like Love Island in the bad ways.
Well, at the end of each chapter, you do have takeaways or almost call to actions of what you can do or what you should be doing. And it seems like, obviously, I think you are newly married, correct?
I am. I just got married like 3 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
So, thank you so much. It was so fabulous. But it was, again, one of those things where I'm like, are you sure you want me to write this book? Like, I'm about to be married. Like,
I'm at the healthiest I've ever been.
I know. But luckily, like, you know, I live in New York, and I would say most of my friends are single and dating. And so I've feel like I've been in the trenches with them for the last like many years. And I have, you know, online dated. I met my husband on Hinge. Like, I've been there. And I'm also very online. So I know what the internet culture of dating is like right now. And so to me, I think the main thing that I wanted people to take away is that the joy of Love Island is that it's so tangible and physical. Like, you have to be in the same place, whereas modern dating feels so mediated by a screen. And so there's this fantasy of like, oh, like you are there with these people that you're dating. Like, you're not just kind of obsessing over maybe what they're doing when you're not with them. You can see
Yeah.
how they're moving on without you, or like, you know, like,
Well, like, yeah, I mean, Love Island is fascinating because they have
Yeah.
to put away their phones for
Yeah.
all of their time in the
Yeah.
villa. And that really forces you to have this, you know, minute to minute interaction that we are so consumed with our phones and looking down and social media, which you make a lot of points about that meta study in regards to social media, you know, themselves most of the time. And so it's almost this vacation to be in some place like the villa, but we do not have the gift of being thrown away to a villa for like 6 weeks without our phones.
Right. And I think that's why one of the main things I hope people take away is that, like, you have to be leaving your house. Like, you have to go find your villa somewhere where you are with other people.
Oh, that's in the first chapter. You
Yeah.
literally say, leave your house. And I was like, this
Yeah.
already seems like a tall order, Rebecca.
I know. I get it. I also love to be in my bed where everything is perfect and safe and
Okay,
great.
Paige DeSorbo, calm down. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, as much as I know I love Summer House too, and sometimes I'm like, girls, leave your bed. Like, you got to get up and
They
do
got it.
something.
I mean, the producers got to steal that bed next season. They got to
I
put it in at like
know.
2 a.m. And I mean, Summer House, by the way, actually is very interesting to compare it to Love Island and to compare it to modern day dating. But it is one of those things of like this, like, I love those phone scenes in the bed, but at the same time, it's Inception because I'm on my phone watching them on their phones. And I'm like, just give them some phone time, but maybe
know.
not let them just be in the bed with the phone the entire time.
I know. I really think it says so much about like where we're at societally, where it's like we also want to watch people who are doing the same things as we are doing, which is laying in bed on our phones and like talking with our friends. Love that, but like, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so relatable.
Yeah.
You also I mean, this came up in Summer House just a couple weeks ago. Kyle did not know what this was, but Love Island really brought to the forefront the term ick.
Yes.
And you actually bring up the first time it was used on this show, which I thought was hysterical. When was the first time this was kind of highlighted on Love Island?
This was in season 3, which is the best season of Love Island of all time. You know, Chris Hughes was on that, who was in the news for maybe dating JoJo Siwa right now.
Well, I think they're Instagram official, Rebecca. I think they seem to be, which that's another celebrity brother, Big Brother UK. They just do reality shows differently. Like, we turn JoJo potentially to a man, this reality show.
Yeah, it's like they're doing crazy things over there. Like, you gotta hand it to them. But like Chris Hughes was on that season. It was an incredible season of television. But basically, Olivia, who Chris ends up with on that, spoiler alert, sorry, on that season, she's talking about a guy she's coupled up with, and obviously coupling up is the primary like mechanism for Love Island. And she's just like, I just like got the ick, and when you get the ick, it just like doesn't go. And my kind of theory about that is that she basically just didn't like him. Like, it wasn't anything he did. He was just like not for her. And like I would argue that that's kind of different than what we would consider an ick. But like he just like his personality was an ick.
Well, sometimes I think when we name these things and it becomes this buzzword, I almost feel like, do you think it like almost highlights that for women to immediately find an ick?
Yeah. Oh, totally. I think it's one of those things that you can kind of apply. You can like backpedal it a little bit. It's like, oh, that's what that means. Like when ghosting and like orbiting and stuff came out, it was like, that's what the problem is. And it's like, well, no, human relationships are really complicated. And like, you kind of can't retrofit everything into what's like the viral term of the moment. But I think ick is one of those things where, I mean, there's so many ways for women to get the ick from men. Like, have you met a man?
Yeah.
Like,
By the way, like,
yeah.
I do this show and I talk mainly about reality TV, and it's like, I can't defend us. I'm not going to even defend myself. Like, there is legit, I've already done 10 potentially icky things this morning already. So I completely agree with every woman in regards to ick. Which, by the way, do men have reverse icks for women?
Well, it's so funny because Olivia, who like kind of popularized the term, she had given an interview a couple of years ago where she was like, "Oh, she's now married. Me and my husband give each other the ick all the time." Like, because she like gave the example of like she had tried to get the check and he was like, "That was an ick for me." That you couldn't get the waiter's attention.
Surviving ick through love. Like,
yeah,
so,
and it's like,
so it doesn't end a relationship potentially, because Amanda on Summer House pretty much seems like she has constant ick from Kyle. while and they're still together.
Right. Summer House is a really good example of like women, Lexi and Jesse, constantly getting the ick from kind of each other, I guess, but mostly, at least towards the end of the season, Lexi being like, he was icking me out. Like he was constantly like all over me, like just being really obsessive. And I think that was probably a major ick for her, because it would be for a lot of people.
And then I think the audience is getting double ick for Jesse and potentially Lexi at the same time by the end of the season.
Yeah, even their housemates were getting the ick from them. Like just their weird relationship by the end. I think people were just like, what's going on there?
Oh my God. You also bring up the first time, well, not the first time, but an example of love bombing. And you use Kaylor and Aaron from season 6 of Love Island USA. That was the season that kind of exploded Love Island for the US. Like I said, season 7 premieres like just in a week. And Kaylor and Aaron, like that was such an insane relationship. What did you think about Kaylor and Aaron and what Aaron exhibited towards Kaylor?
Oh gosh, I think for anyone that is kind of a wear your heart on your sleeve type of person, a person that's a romantic, they saw themselves in Kaylor in a not great way. It was just like when you're just pleading with someone to like follow up their words with actions or prove to you that what they're saying is not just something to say to get you to like hook up with them or be with them. I think it was sort of cringy to watch, but in a way that was very like heartfelt, and you're like, oh, like, girl, you deserve better than this, because Aaron, he had already been on a British reality TV show like that. I watched. He was on The Traitors. He had a pretty big role on the Traitors, and I think going into it, I was like, oh, I know what this guy can do. Like, I know that this guy's really good at lying, and so Kaylor was just like, this poor girl was just getting disappointed over and over again. And I think he was one of those, like many men, like good at kind of the words, but not necessarily like the follow through or the honesty.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was very interesting to watch that relationship, which, by the way, we've talked about it on this show. They're now doing a spinoff, Love Island Beyond the Villa, with the season 6 cast, and Kaylor will be on that. And I'm so curious to see what Aaron, how he's going to pop up at all and what that relationship, because part of me in the back of my head thinks that Kaylor will eventually go back to Aaron in some form, especially if you have reality TV show cameras involved. Don't you think that's a high possibility? Oh
gosh, I really hope not, because she was like at the reunion, it was like, yeah, like she like stood up to him. She basically said, she was like, you love bombed me, called him out for that. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but like, who knows? You're so right. When reality TV cameras are there, it's like all bets are off. Like, but I love the way that Love Island is so messy, and like they'll put X's together on the All-Star seasons, and just like, oh God, what are we doing? But
it really is. It's a mess. And I guess at the same time, if you look at our own lives, truth is stranger than fiction, and we can get into some really crazy scenarios ourselves. It's just that cameras are not on us. Right. So I don't know if the cameras keep us honest or just make us like complete devils or push us to that. You also, just for the audience that doesn't watch Love Island, there is this insane part of Love Island called Casa Amor, where all of the guys go to a different location and there's a bunch of new girls come in, and it really tests the relationship because they can snog, they can make out, and they do this knowing that it will be eventually shown to their partners back in Love Island proper. But they always seem to make the poorest of decisions. It always comes back to haunt them. None of the men ever learn. And I think we sometimes like that because it's one of the most entertaining parts of the show. In real life, what is the real life version of Casa Amor? Is it just lying?
Oh my God. It's got to be like a guy's trip. Like whenever like.
Or a boys chat.
Oh yeah. Or a boys chat, as we learned from, what was it? The Valley.
The Valley. Yeah.
God. That was like not even close to the darkest thing.
By the way, Rebecca, I think you're the person to do this. We need you to do a biography of Jax Taylor eventually.
Oh my God.
How to not date the Jax Taylor in your life.
I love both of those ideas. I bet the Jax Taylor memoir would probably be more lucrative. It's like how not to date the Jax Taylor in your life would just be one page, and it would be like, don't date anybody that reminds you of Jax Taylor. Yeah,
but then it's like, and then the second page is like, if you've ignored the first page, this is my advice.
Yeah. Then that's the rest of the book. Oh my gosh. I totally forget what you just asked.
No, it was just saying, what is that version of Casa Amor in real life with men? Is it just lying? Is it not being forthcoming? Is it not, you talk about, men are hard to come by in talking about their feelings and being open and honest. I was trying to think of what is that equivalent to Casa Amor.
Well, I think what these shows, and I'll include like Temptation Island in this too, what these shows prove is that like for men, out of sight, out of mind. Like if you are not directly standing in front of them and saying like, hey, you are my partner and we are together, like at least men on dating reality TV shows, they will just like, all of that just goes out the window the moment that a like hot girl that is their type walks into a room. So I think, you know, it's lying. It's like when, you know, someone goes on like a boys trip and you just don't really know what happens. Bachelor parties, boys chats. Yeah, it's like, you know, how many scandals have we had on reality TV of like men texting or like being on dating apps and chatting to other women? Like so bizarre. I don't get it.
Yeah, by the way, I hate to keep bringing up Summer House, but we just had a scene cut from the finale where Paige had said, Craig was caught texting two bitches. That's her words, not mine. Yeah. And we don't really know. I mean, we know what that's in reference to, but it got cut out of. So maybe it'll be in the Never Before Seen episode they're doing. Okay, folks. This is exciting. Let's talk about our friends at Naked Wines. Now, we are fast approaching summer, and there is nothing that screams summer like a beautiful array of wines. And sometimes you are too busy to go to the grocery store or the wine store to grab them. But with Naked Wines, you can get the most beautiful, pristine selection of wine. You just go to the website, put in all the different types of wine you like to drink, and then they select these kind of amazing wines. Also, what I find it good for is if you're invited to something, and I don't get invited out much, but when I do, you're supposed to bring something. And nothing says you are a great guest if you bring a bottle of wine. So it's always good to have wine on store. It makes you the most interesting person at the party, right? And also, have you ever wanted to learn more about wine, but you couldn't figure out where to start? Or when you do start, it kind of feels like too much. So our next partner, Naked Wines, has changed the game for learning about wine without having to take a whole class about it, because boo learning. The podcast, this one, is sponsored by Naked Wines. It's 2025. Do you still shop for wine like it's 2025? Naked Wines is a service that directly connects you to the world's finest independent winemakers so you can get award-winning wine delivered straight to your door. And use our code SOBAD. Listen, this is so great. That should be the product code, but we're doing So Bad because that's the name of the show. So Bad for the code and the password at nakedwines.com. I truly want you to do this. Use code SOBAD for the code and the password, nakedwines.com, and you can get their incredible deal of 6 bottles for just $39.99. I had my last bottle of Naked Wines 2 weeks ago because unfortunately I'm on a cleanse right now. I'd like to be drinking all of the Naked Wines, and it was just an amazing experience. We had a beautiful dinner with it. It was the perfect start to a really nice weekend. So how do they do this amazing deal? Naked Wines connects winemakers and wine drinkers directly, allowing for your vineyard to your door delivery at up to 60% off what you would pay in store. Now, by cutting out the traditional retail middleman costs and markups, winemakers can pass those savings on to you without skimping on quality. I don't know. This is just a really cool service. And when I went to their website, it really does kind of map out everything. And it really does ask, do you like bold flavors? Do you like whites? Do you like reds? I mean, it really is an exciting process. And the best thing is you do not have to spend time in your car to go get this. And it is relatively inexpensive. Naked Wines has been around for 15 years, over 15 years, and funds over 90 independent winemakers around the world. With no commitments or membership fees, you can enjoy Naked Wines hassle-free. And don't forget, you can pause or cancel this at any time. So just because you've got a trip coming up doesn't mean you can't enjoy Naked Wines before or after that much needed vacation. So this is the big one. Pay attention. Now is the time to join the Naked Wines community. Head to nakedwines.com/SoBad. Click enter voucher and put in my code, Ryan Bailey's code, SOBAD, for both the code and password for 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99 with shipping included. My God, shipping included? So that's $100 off your first 6 bottles of wine at nakedwines.com/SoBad, and use the code and password SOBAD for 6 bottles of wine at $39.99. Whew, do this, folks. I'm telling you, this is a good deal.
Yeah. Well, when I interviewed her in February, I asked her about that because it was in the trailer and that had just come out. And so I was like, what was that? And she was like, I didn't know if it was platonic or anything more, but I caught him texting hearts to 2 different girls. So, but like, That was.
But also, isn't a man texting emojis to begin with an ick? In any sense, like if we're texting the hearts already, and by the way, I mean, like I'll tap that heart thing if somebody like a DM, and I'll tap the heart thing, but sometimes I don't use the heart emoji,
like the actual emojis.
Yeah, like my dad started using emojis, and it really like that gives me the ick for my dad. And
a dad ick.
Yeah, so she's saying like she didn't know if it was actually more than anything, but she caught him putting 2 hearts into a DM.
Yeah, something like that. And again, she was just like. She like made it clear that, you know, she didn't think that was necessarily cheating, but it was just like one line in like, or one of many things that like maybe made her doubt or made him seem like not the perfect guy that I think that, you know, he had tried to become or like to try to portray on TV.
But isn't that the thing that women have to deal with so much, and maybe men to a very, way lesser degree, is that even when you're with your partner, do you really know your partner? Like, can you trust wholeheartedly? Like, men are always going to screw up. How do you rank those screw ups? Like, is there a litmus test for how far or how much you will put up with? Because as Paige even said on Summer House and a lot of the Love Island, like Kaylor, you can only put up with so much before it actually infracts on your personal moral and belief system.
Yeah. I think like what these shows have really taught us is that like when it gets to the point where your friends are coming to you and being like, hey, you don't have to marry this guy, or like, hey, like, are you okay? Like you're losing yourself in this relationship, or you're not opening up to us. Like what's going on? That I feel like that's almost always a sign that like something needs to be worked out, whether that's a breakup or not. Like it just needs to be addressed and talked through at least, because that shows that like, there's a level of like either secrecy or just resentment or something that's not being dealt with.
Yeah. You also have this great section of the book about the concept of love as a marketable display, and talking about how we use social media in love. And you use the example from a Love Island UK couple that are just, I mean, Molly May is just a huge Love Island person and also influencer. And she was with Tommy Fury, and they had a baby Bambi. And he had, I believe, an infidelity, and they split up. I think they might actually be on the road to recovery, if I'm not mistaken, but who knows?
This is news to me.
Well, man. She had said something in a social media post a while ago that I was like, oh, are there cracks on her fortitude against not being with him? But I thought this was interesting. Obviously, we get told this, but it never sinks in, is that what we see on social media is not the reality. Right?
Right. Totally. And I think like, people that come off of Love Island and, end with 1 million Instagram followers, 2 million Instagram followers, those are usually people that are very good at selling themselves, portraying a personal brand that really resonates with a lot of people. And I'm not saying that means you're fake. It just means you're like really kind of you've got a good business mind, and I think a lot of those type of people are really good at that. And so it's natural that they would also be very good at sort of selling a relationship to us. And I mean, Molly May and Tommy Fury were so compelling on their season of Love Island, and they had like obviously a very genuine love and connection. But at the same time, these are both, he's a pro boxer. She was already an influencer before she got on the show. Like they know what they're doing. And I think that's why, months after their breakup, their comments were filled with people like, no, like this is so devastating that like you broke up. And it's like, no, these are human beings, and people break up. And she had said, and I know she had like a reality TV show a little bit about his drinking was a really big problem. I don't know if there was ever explicit infidelity, but she was pointing to the drinking as the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, when there's rumored infidelity and then drinking,
and then
right, I mean, they're trying to cover similar territory with Danny Bucco right now in the Valley, so who knows? There was this interesting thing that I had not really put together or thought of in terms of ethnicity, and actually to talk about the Valley, we had this talked about with Jasmine, is that it took 4 seasons on Love Island UK to cast a black woman. And also to that point, you had said black women are being fetishized in some ways and not taken seriously by social or the show, or even just in life in general. And I thought that was such an interesting concept. Can you speak more to that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there was this really great piece a few years ago on HuffPost that was like, Love Island needs black women. Do black women need Love Island? Because it took 4 seasons, but then every single time there was a dark-skinned black woman on the show, they got picked last on everything. They had suffered, like they would have crushes on people and they wouldn't be reciprocated. It was just sort of like almost like a humiliation ritual. It was like, why would black women keep wanting to go on the show if like they're not going to cast other people that want to date black women? And so it becomes this thing that I think like the US show, like thankfully, has less of that problem. You know, like
Janae and Serena.
Janae
like
and Serena, like those were the
PPG.
stars of the show. And so, but I think because in that regard, the UK is maybe a little bit more stuck in the past. Maybe it was because, you know, the show is older, like it just was stuck in its ways, that it created this really unfortunate and toxic environment for people that didn't fit into this very like tanned, blonde, not always blonde, but like fake teeth, fake lips, like, you know, this sort of UK ideal. Whereas, you know, plastic surgery isn't as big of a thing, I feel like, in the US as it is there, at least for like these kinds of people. And so,
by the way, you guys, that you might think that comment sounds crazy, but if you watch Love Island UK, you will know exactly what she's talking about. It is a very specific beauty standard that, like, to me is like, I think it's like, whoa, like every time I watch a new season, I'm like, that's wild that is the standard over there. It's very different in the US.
It's just very obvious in a way that I think Americans like to be a little bit less obvious about their procedures or whatever, like they have done, which is fine, whatever. But anyway, so yeah, I think it's sort of, it echoes what it's like in the real dating world, where it's like, if you don't fit into a beauty norm, if you're plus size, if you're, you know, whatever, if you don't fit into society's expectation, dating is going to be harder for you. And it's just like, it's hard to sometimes, it gets rid of that escapism when you see that on a show like Love Island, which is meant to be fun and frivolous and silly, but it just is it can be such a painful reminder to audiences about like what it's like in the real world too.
Yeah, no, it is interesting that comment about fetishization and thinking about the Valley and just how I perceive women, or how we perceive women as a whole, is that sometimes we will not look any further than what we see on the outside, which is just really, truly insane. Like, so we are not even, there is no sort of even playing field at all, because we are already putting people at such a disadvantage by our lesser wants, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So you also bring up this, I mean, you bring up all of the Delulu is the Salulu. Where did that come from?
Oh, that's like a TikTok thing. That is like, I cannot claim to have coined that, but I do think there's an element of, you know, I really did not want this book to be like, just be confident, like you'll be fine. I hate that kind of advice. It's so easy, it's lazy, whatever. But there is a tiny, tiny, tiny part of it that's so true. It's just like, so like the world is not going to be easier if you feel sorry for yourself all the time and you're not putting yourself out there. You're not leaving your house. You're not, you know, speaking kindly to yourself, and you're not like putting yourself in positions where you could have opportunities to meet people. It's just not like, it's just going to be harder if you have that mindset. And so by like switching some things about, you know, the way you talk to yourself, where you spend your time and energy, surrounding yourself with people who love you and care about you, and being that for other people, like being a part of the world, that these are things that can get you out of your head, and make your like be someone that people want to be around, because no one wants to be around someone who's just like meh. And I think people need to hear that. I do think people need to hear that. Like, complaining is not that fun to be around.
No, I mean, yeah, it does add up.
Yeah.
A couple of terms that people might not be familiar with if you don't watch Love Island UK. What does mugged off mean?
Oh, mugged off just means like, oh, like you kind of were mean to me, or like you neglected me, or like you made me into a mug, like someone that like got screwed over.
Yeah, disrespected. So yeah, I love the vernacular that we now completely use in our everyday lives. Also, Aaron said on Love Island USA, listen, this is not Friendship Island, this is Love Island. What did Aaron mean by that in that moment?
Oh my gosh. What was the exact term? I think it was like people were prioritizing their friendships over you know, the romantic relationships. And he was like, it's not fucking Friendship Island, it's Love Island. And, you know, he did an interview like months later being like, maybe it is Friendship Island. Cause he obviously ended the show being like best friends with Rob, and their bromance was one of like the highlights of the season. And so, and that chapter argues that like, maybe it is Friendship Island. Like those are often the relationships from that show that we come away with being, you know, talking about the most, or loving to watch the most.
You are, like you said, newly married. And was there sort of a Was there a happy funeral for the end of what this book speaks about? Because you have, for all intents and purposes, found you're the
Yeah.
one. Is there a weird thing or hill to climb over of like, man, I'm putting something that I've put so much thought in? Not that you're not going to keep thinking about this,
Yeah.
because I think you're going to keep writing things of
Yeah.
this nature. What was that feeling like for you?
Well, it was so funny because writing this, I had to, like, in the first chapter, I write about meeting my now husband. And that was something that I, like, it was so long ago. Like, I don't really think about it that often, but like revisiting that and like telling that to the world was just like, so like, whoa, like that, I was a really different person back then. And how, like, I kind of assumed that he was like this fuck boy. And like that we now call, God, what's the word? Jesus Christ.
There's too many words. There's
too many words.
Like words now to explain men's behaviors.
I know. But basically I was just like, I saw red flags everywhere. And I had to sort of let go of some preconceived notions I had about, what, like, I was like, I know everything about everybody, and letting go of some of that was really crucial in the development of our relationship, and kind of staying open, being open to someone evolving, being open to me evolving. So yeah, it was really cool, as because I wrote it like 3 months before we actually did get married. And so it did feel like a little bit of like, oh, this, like, I'm kind of going through my past self when I was dating, and when I was just like this much more closed off person.
In modern day dating, you talked about, like, I was seeing red flags everywhere. Are we almost trained, or are women trained in a sense to just assume a bunch of red flags? And sometimes does that ever stop people from getting to actually know each other because you are looking for those hammers everywhere?
Yeah, no, I think for sure it does. And I think some of that is really positive. I think I do think reality TV helps with this to an extent. Like,
I do too. Yeah. I mean, it really helps.
Yeah, you watch these people and you're like, oh my God, I know someone in my life that's kind of like that. And everyone's saying how toxic they are. So like, maybe they have a point. Like, I think that can be really helpful to people. Like watching, Brittany and Jax, you're like, oh my God, you can see it from a mile away. But when you're in it, you don't. And so what I think is really good is that there is much more of a conversation around mental health and positive relationships. And it's less of a stigma to talk about like the really gritty detail. Like, we have more vocabulary to talk about the nitty gritty details of spending your life with someone else. But at the same time, there is an element of like, all men are trash, like just being really judgmental. And like this, I don't like the conversations around the ick that are like, he crossed his legs, so like gross, ew, bye. And it's like, come on, like everyone is embarrassing. Like, you are embarrassing too. Like you have
he has a podcast.
Yeah.
Ick. Yeah.
you have to open yourself up to the fact that like human beings are cringe, and that's okay. Yeah.
I love, if we start at that baseline, then I mean, I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Because we will all eventually get cringe one day, or elements of cringe.
Yeah.
You also have this really great section talking about queer relationships, which I thought was so important to have in there too. And I always like that, you were talking about like, listen, just go ask somebody out. Just go it sounds impossible in your head, but just go do it. Like, and I know that's easier said than done, but for some reason that kind of stuck out as a revelation to me of where I could see somebody reading this and going, oh, could it be that simple? Like, I could see that actually helping people.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. So the conversation around like bisexual women, it's like, oh my God, like I could never ask her out. Like, I'm so intimidated by like talking to a pretty girl. I'm like, this is why you can be the change in the community. Like, you can be the one to be like, hey, you're cute. And I think it's just so much less weird to do that. If you're in like a queer space, and like, it's just like, if you're talking to a girl and you can just be like, hey, are you straight? It's just so much easier to do that. I think, than in like the straight world where it's just like, you're a man. Like, it's like, I don't like, it's all like, there's just like more to be like, I think you should just be a lot more frank. And especially if you are that kind of person that does go up to someone and like, even just approaching them like a friend and like developing a friendship and then being like, hey, like, we should hang out. That's just so much less weird to do than with a guy, because a lot of women feel like they can't go and approach a man because like, if he's not chasing you, then he doesn't want you. So I don't know. To me, it's like, leave your house, go talk to that girl.
Yeah. Which, by the way, first chapter already, leave your house, which I think is great, potentially painful advice. What does the Love Island term crack on mean?
Oh, it just means to like flirt and like
crack on.
Yeah. Just like chat with someone.
Very simple. You have this great thing that you say a couple times in the book is that the people that enter Love Island start one way and they come out different. And I thought that was amazing because they do go through a journey. What did you specifically mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like what I meant was like dating changes us. It's like when you go into somewhere like the Love Island villa and you come out, and I mean, obviously you're a celebrity and this is happening in real time, and it doesn't really. It's like you're so raw after this experience of like opening yourself up to the world, and you don't really get a huge chance to like deal with that. I think you often are just like so like having this whirlwind of thing that just happened to you. And I think a lot of us feel like that when we're dating. It's like, I am not the person I was before I met XYZ, or before I had this heartbreak, or before I hooked up with this person and realized XYZ. It's like, dating really does change us. And, you know, sometimes it will feel really scary to like change who you are, but like ultimately that like, what's the alternative? Staying at home, being like the same person that you've always been. It's like, it's just, you just have to do it.
Rebecca, there's so much good television on right now. You truly do not have to
so
leave.
True.
But which is a point you make in the book.
Yeah.
I did exit interviews with the Love Island USA cast last season. And what was so interesting, especially the very finale, was that they were just nonstop focusing on relationship. So, you know, by the time they did just that much attention on each other, it was like a year worth of relationship potentially.
Yeah.
But then what they dealt with on the outside was then getting their phones back and realizing how we interpreted everything, how we took this of like, you're love bombing, you're breadcrumbing, you got icks, you got red flags. And you could see, like I could see in those small interviews in real time, them being kind of shocked at, you know, like, what's her Leah was like a fan favorite. She had no idea. She thought she was like universally hated. And I thought that was so interesting. And I was wondering in real life, we don't necessarily in these heartbreaks, you know, they're so hurtful, but we don't usually have to deal with the public shaming in our heartbreaks. And I thought, if you're looking for anything positive about not being a B-level star, that would be it.
I know, exactly right. And I think a lot of us that watch reality TV shows sometimes like think of our lives like it. Like, and I think it's sometimes worth thinking about that a little bit. It's like, who would I be in this, like, what season? What like season of life am I in? Like literally season.
Am I in an early Dodie or I'm in a valley stage Dodie? Yeah.
Or like the valley Dodie where she's like, I'm an empath. It's so hard.
She's wearing long flowing dresses now. She's taking Valium because she doesn't like fighting. I mean,
my queen.
This is the Dodie that I always knew we would get there eventually. It's like, it's late stage Fleetwood Mac Dodie. And I truly love watching it. A couple more things before I talk a little bit about Summer House with you before we have to let you go. You bring up the sex in the villa and you have to shag or not to shag. And this is very interesting because this is the other thing about Love Island is they get randy, they get horny, and you see this. They all sleep in the same bedroom. So some people are snogging right in front of their friends, which happens more in the UK. Yeah. But you had even said like one couple, like they had sex 30 times in the villa.
And it wasn't even 30 days. It was insane. I think they're now like they have kids, which is great, I guess, for them.
Well, 30 times you're eventually going to have a kid. One of those times, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Like there is stories of early seasons Love Island where they were having sex like on top of the covers because they assumed it would not get shown. And guess what? It got shown. It's wild.
How idiotic yet beautiful for reality television to just not assume that something will not be something will not be shown. But you had said, like, you know, on Love Island, though, they do this thing where you must meet with a counselor.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't be drunk. You can only have 2 drinks per night on Love Island. I think they do the same thing on the Bachelor franchise. But you also make that point, too, is that we can take something good of that. Like, you should see a counselor potentially. And also, you need to wear protection. You need to have safe sex.
Yeah, there's so much about like sex on Love Island. Obviously, it's very over the top and for our entertainment, but at the same time, it's like, you know, obviously I don't think you need to go to therapy every time you have sex, but it's like, at least like check in with yourself. Like, you know, how do you feel about this with a friend, whatever. If you're, you know, past the 3, 4, or 5 drink mark, maybe like grab a friend, be like, is it? And then like, they can be like, like, I just like sex is just like better when you can remember it. You know, it's like, these are kind of like things that, you know, are reality TV producers have to think about because they're making a show, but you also should think about because you are kind of the reality TV producer of your own life. So
that's beautiful. That's a great T-shirt. Reality TV producer of my own life. That's what I need. Me and a camera instead of. But you also brought up like some really bad habits that men. I mean, I'm sure this is since the dawn of time, but men don't want to wear condoms, right?
Yeah.
There is also a fetishization with like choking, where some women think that's what turns men on, and it just seems like, oh man, this is such a minefield of all of these really potentially dark, dangerous things can leave a mark or a scar on you, and it seems to be proliferating the dating world. Are there other things? I mean, how commonplace is this with men and condoms?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's kind of shocking how like men will sort of be like, well, I'm clean. It's like, first of all, you're kind of stigmatizing STDs, but also
way,
like,
if you say you're clean, there's you're already suspect. You're already dirty just for that comment. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, you're dirty for that. No, and it's like because maybe they just got out of a long-term relationship and they're not used to wearing protection. But again, this is like bare minimum stuff. It's just like all you have to do is just be like, well, we're not doing it if you're not going to wear protection. Like, and that's the end of that story. And like, yeah, my friends who are, even in their 30s, and I think because of that, maybe they're getting divorced. Like these guys that are like, well, I didn't have to use a condom in my marriage, so therefore, when I go out and hook up, it's like, well, that's a different person. Like, there's an expectation of monogamy. That's a completely different question. And yeah, I guess like the thing I wanted to make clear is like, obviously every single woman has like horrible sex stories, whatever. But I think the key is sometimes the judgment that we put on ourselves is worse than like the memory of the act itself. And so I think like giving yourself grace after a tough moment or a moment that you felt weird about is like the number one thing, because I think that guilt lingers so much longer than we think it does.
I mean, reading this book, and I'm in a happy relationship right now myself, but at the same time I read this, and if I really start to think about relationships through reality TV, I'm like, how are any of us with any of us? Like, how is it? Because I know how much I worry in my own head about stupid things that are not even real half the time. And I talk to my friends about their stories, and I'm like, it is amazing that we actually find people anytime.
I know. You're so right. That was such a profound thing to say. And I think that's why it's so magic on reality TV shows when you do see like real love bloom, and it's so devastating when you see, the betrayals. But I think that's what makes us human. And again, you got to be out there and doing it, because what's
leave
the alternative?
The house once again, folks.
There's
leave
no
the
alternative.
By the way, leave the house with this book. Go take yourself on a coffee date and just read this book and see what happens. I think that'd be good. What are the things right now that you think women are potentially doing wrong, or things that you see that you're like, man, if I could give some advice, this is what I'm seeing proliferate a lot out there that I wish we wouldn't do as much.
Yeah, I think having like kind of doing checklist dating is not great. I think that's a way to feel really disappointed and feeling like very rigid in your needs, because I think those evolve. And also you're not really letting yourself be surprised by what's actually out there. And I think like there are some things where those are non-negotiables. I think right now there's a whole section in the book about like how the political divide between men and women is making it really hard for a lot of people, a lot of women to find.
You bring that up in the book actually, which is, I mean, we're so divided, but especially when it comes to dating, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that is going to make dating harder. And those are like things like if these are your morals, like don't compromise on your morals. But I think the things you can compromise on are things about like some minor lifestyle things, some minor physical attributes, some minor like emotional attributes. Like no person is going to slot into your dream of a life in exactly like the puzzle piece that you expect. And I see a lot of people who, first of all, I love the way most of my friends date, which is like the additive approach, where it's like, if this person's not adding anything to my life, then like, what am I doing? Like if I'm just like constantly compromising and getting nothing, I totally get that. But when it's like, you have this exact vision for something that and someone doesn't slot perfectly into that very narrow view that you have, like you're kind of giving them this much room. It's like, that's a person, like you have to, you also have to like make some room in your life too, I think.
There seems to be, and I think with men more than women, there's a coldness in how we approach this and look at things where we really take the humanity completely out of it. And it's just another number. And I don't even mean with sex, but like, I'm doing the apps again. I'm doing this, or we split checks, or this would it becomes this kind of weird dance that doesn't seem to have anything to do with two hearts at a certain
No,
point.
totally. And like, I think that's what I have a chapter on, like how to sort of mentally and physically prepare for a date. And I think part of it is like keeping the glamour alive. Like instead of saying like, oh, I have another like dating app date, I have another Hinge date. It's like, no, like I'm meeting someone tonight. Like I have like an engagement. Like I think that's so chic and so sexy and fun. And like instead of just being grumpy about it, like that's actually kind of fabulous that you are putting yourself out there. You are meeting people online and you're like taking that, would be just based on a screen into like a real, you're going and doing something cool. And like that's
your
cool no matter what.
Your person will want to know everything about you. They will want to add something to your life. You know, like that's what I think is a good sign when you've met the right person, is that they are going to remember your likes and your dislikes. And you're going to warm into something that potentially could have a lot of beauty in it. Finally, just about the book before I move to Summer House really quickly is, obviously, this comes out this week. I want everybody to go get it. I'm going to put the Amazon link, even though always support local booksellers if it's there. I think that's sometimes the best way to get this book. Is what do you hope people get out of this book?
Oh my gosh. I hope they take some fun out of this, because I think Love Island is such a fun show. It's like, I would argue it's the most fun dating show. I think Love is Blind, The Bachelor, they're so serious. They take themselves so seriously. Love Island is just like a joy to watch. And I think dating should be one fun part of your life that's already fun. Your friendship should be fun, your life should be fun, and your dating life should be fun too. So that's what
and I think this book is a joy to read, so I highly recommend. Now let's move to this mess Summer House really quickly. We just had the season finale. First off, I want reaction to the news that Jesse Solomon potentially hooked up with Erica Jane at the Bravo NBC upfronts. Your thoughts, Rebecca?
This makes total sense to me. I kind of love when they get like the millennial men idiots to hook up with like the Gen X, like when Garcelle was hooking up with Jason, I think his name was.
Giselle with Jason from Winter House. Yeah.
And there was definitely another one recently, but it makes total sense to me. And I think like they both Erica and Jesse have that like haters, like back off kind of like energy that is kind of annoying, but also like it makes sense that they both found each other.
Could you just imagine them singing in the shower together?
Oh my God. Why did you just put that image in my brain?
Also, Erica Jane is like really, like, she's going 30 years younger potentially if this happened. And I think these are people that both love attention in the weirdest ways. So if anything, don't have your relationships give you the ick. Have this relationship give you the ick. Like, could you imagine Erica Jane in Summer House next season?
Oh my God. Well, it's giving like she's protecting that diamond, because like everyone was talking about how last season her what did she redo her pillows? Like,
it's just like wallpaper is not a storyline, Erica. But that's the thing, is that they both like, part of the Jesse Solomon thing, like he loves being a reality TV quote unquote star. And I think Erica Jane, it's not all she has, but it's a major part of what she has at this point. So if you put those two forces together, which by the way, I think the sex would still be very vanilla. It would not be explosive. I don't care what anybody says, but it's very exciting. Which, by the way, your article, which was excellent, I'm going to put the link to the article from Vulture, is Summer House is for the Girls. Was Lexi asked to participate in that?
Well, so no. So we, this was about the Girls of Summer House. We didn't even know Lexi was like part of the show when we were organizing that. So like we had organized with them for like a couple of months. And so Lexi was like not even an option, basically.
Oh, gotcha.
And to be fair, I had pitched this story like 2 years ago, because I was like, Summer House is the best show. We need to do a story on this. And then, it finally worked out this year. But yeah, no, it wasn't like a slight to her or anything. It was just like, we literally didn't know that she was on the show.
But you nailed it on the head. Like, this is a show that, like, even in that last scene of the finale with Lindsay, Amanda, and Paige, you're like, this has so much heart, and it talks about their love of each other and the love of their lives, and that kind of experience that I think a lot of people go through, even men, of we're not exactly where we thought we would be, but we really love where we are in some ways. And by the way, what is your thoughts on a potential spinoff?
Oh my gosh. I'll watch whatever these people are on, to be fair. But like, I loved it so much. I think I'm like exactly the same age as the girls on Summer House. And so to me, it's just so relatable. Like, these conversations that they're having are the exact conversations that my friends and I are having. And so I think audiences are really liking that. I think Summer House is that show that's like millennials kind of grew up with it a little bit. It's like before it was just all about like partying and hooking up and situationships, whatever. And now it's like, yeah, I'm freezing my eggs. Like, like I'm gonna stay home from this party. Like, yeah.
Which, by the way, like I'm of the mind, bring the baby to the Summer House. Just baby-proof the Summer House. Like I always say, like, can you imagine those doofuses, West and Jesse and Kyle, trying to change a diaper? We got three men and a baby reboot
that's
right
gold.
there.
That's so gold. Yeah. No, there's so many, like, we've got Carl's bar opening in June.
Will you be going to Soft Bar?
I am trying to, yeah.
You're probably going to do an article about it, right?
We'll see, yeah. Yeah.
I like Lindsay, I'm team Lindsay through and through, but at the same time, I don't want Carl to fail. Like I say I spend too much time worrying about Soft Bar in any given week. Like I will sit there and worry about Carl and Soft Bar. And so I hope it goes somewhat well.
Sure.
Where do you think Summer House goes next season? For me, like you said, I watch this and I don't care. Like I'm invested in them. The Summer House itself, like it's not some like magical place that's, filled with magical properties. Like I'm invested in their stories. And so I will watch whatever they're on. But where do you think, or where would you want it to go?
I mean, I think what I've seen and what I kind of agree with, it's like, I think they can do another summer with mostly this cast, like as maybe Lindsay has a friend
Even
of.
Lexi?
Yeah, I think Lexi was like good TV. Do you not? Like
I do, but sometimes I think when you do not alienate, I don't think she but when you have this strong, like all the women still seem under the magic spell of Jesse Solomon from the edit. Like they all, like even when he's like, oh, I'm so bummed out. Like Amanda and Paige are like, you're all right. I'm like, dude, how are you for the girls? To me, this is so glaringly obvious that this is almost strategy in a weird way that he would never admit to. Like even in the breakup, he won because he got people to feel sympathy for him, which is his ultimate goal, is to get some form of attention from these women. And I'm scared to death that Sierra's going to hook up with this guy.
Oh God, I know. And like, but even like watching the whole season, I got it. Like I could see his side, at least from like what we saw, because I think it was just like, we don't know this girl Lexi, but we also like only kind of know Jesse. To me, it was just like a situation where they were both like a lot of chemistry right from the start. And then both of them, like maybe she was a little bit jealous and he was a little bit like controlling, but like I think the controlling aspect wasn't apparent until much later.
Well, so, two things can be true at once, and it does seem like even with that like the tennis, the Met thing that he took Sierra to, it's like obviously he did not tell Lexi, his pseudo girlfriend, that he was going there with Sierra, and she had nothing to do. So that would probably really bum you out if all of a sudden you saw his big toothy smile on social media.
Totally. It's like, the more that I hear, the more I'm like, obviously team Lexi. Like it's like,
well, it's not even like both. Like there, I mean, like there are things that Lexi did that kind of like two things can be true at once. Where I'm like, neither of them are like perfect in this. Yeah. But Jesse, to me, even like profiled Lexi going in. Like he was like, I hear there's a hot girl. Like he knew that she had dated Drake already. Like he knew, and I think that was like one of those things on top of being hot, that he was so attracted to somebody that was with celebrities at some point.
Yeah, that first episode was a tough watch. Like, oh my God, nah, like it was like creepy.
Do you think Wes Wilson learned any actual lessons this season in terms of dating based on the fallout from Sierra? And which, by the way, I think Sierra, if you've learned anything, just do not talk about her in the press.
Yeah. I think Wes. I'm really excited. You know what I will say? I'm really excited for Wes to have more of a starring role this season, hopefully, because I think I missed him a little. I have to be honest.
He needs to find his voice. But Gabby was smacking that voice down in this last episode. It was like, shut up, Wes.
Oh my God! Wait, I haven't seen the finale yet. But
sorry.
No, it's fine.
By the way, there's not huge spoilers.
Yeah. But
the Titanic sinks at the end. Yeah.
I think that he probably learned when to shut his mouth, but apparently not, because in the finale apparently he doesn't. So
well, Summer House, it's not huge. He's like barely speaking, and Gabby like smacks him down like, immediately.
No. I love Gabby.
But like Wes kind of exists like the show does, kind of on vibes, where you're just like, I can watch people enter doors and exit doors, and I like the Amazon packages and watching them struggle with the door. That's the minutia that I don't dig in other shows, but I dig in Summer House.
Yeah, it's fun.
What are your other favorite shows that you're watching right now before we let you go?
Oh my God, The Valley, when it's not like super dark.
That's every episode, Rebecca. Every episode is super dark. They have kids.
Like, there's never going to be a moment where I don't watch that show, though. It's like, give it to me.
When I say it's dark, it doesn't mean I dislike it. It means like we have to accept that that's why we watch it and be proud of that.
Oh yeah, and Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which I saw you had on your show. So cool. How was that?
Did you finish the second season yet?
No, I'm like still only like halfway through, and like I'm like savoring it.
Will your husband watch these shows with you?
Sometimes he like comes in and he's like a big sports guy, so like we have our separate, very gendered entertainments.
Viewing area. Well, Summer House is like usually a bridge show with men and women. Like I will have a lot of my straight friends that watch Summer House with their wives or girlfriends. And it's that like, that and Below Deck, for some reason they feel safer watching those Bravo shows. But Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, I can't wait for you to watch the second season. I mean, talk about something fascinating with the backdrop of religion. These people aren't even drinking and they're live and they all have kids. They're in their mid-20s. I mean, it really blows me away because for every ridiculous scene, you will have something where you're like, oh, that girl dealt with deep trauma and doesn't even know what she dealt with in her life. I mean, there's so many interesting things that I think Hulu knocked this out of the park this season. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I am so skeptical of any non-Bravo show. I like E never quite got there with theirs, but Hulu really knows what they're doing, and almost to a fault. I'm like, it's so fast paced, and I'm like, we just ran through this really intense scene, and now we're just like moving on to something else. I'm like, wait, like can we like savor that for a second? Can we have a couple like moments of levity where they're kind of talking about it a little bit more? I don't know. Like the scene with Taylor's family when they all ganged up on her, it was just like,
when her stepdad's like, well, what kind of girl does that make you sleeping with him? I was like,
I wanted to like punch my TV.
And everybody was agreeing with the stepdad. And you see Taylor Frankie Paul, and like, this is a woman on the verge. I mean, this is a young woman on the verge where I even asked the Mormon wives, I was like, how is Taylor? And they're like, they all were just like, not good. I mean, they're like, not good. I mean, she seems like that's a tug of war. And then you throw fame into that mix as well, and extreme hatred and extreme love from the audience. Yeah. I don't know how these people do it.
No, it's like they get so, like Jen Affleck. I just feel so sorry for her this season. I'm just like, she's not really getting any grace from anybody on the show. When she was there, and I really love Jen Affleck, and there seems to be, and this isn't meant to be hurtful, but it was like a deadness in the eyes, kind of like almost like not accepting your fate. Like I'm putting things onto her that probably aren't there, but there was this element of, when the light goes out with somebody's eyes, obviously she's like 8 months pregnant too. And there's so many things happening. But if you watch the storyline, I think they all deal with some really intense mental issues, and especially growing up right there in God's country. But that's what I think makes it so fascinating to watch. So I am so locked into that series. Yeah, no, it's incredible. The way they're able to like just get so much out of that show that like I said, there's almost too much.
It's like I'm gonna go back and rewatch that second season just because I want to like take in all the things that I missed. Finally, just going back to that Summer House article once again, you did point out, I want to tell the audience that Lindsay said, wherever Bravo needs me, I'll be there. So there's some rumors she potentially could be in a rebooted Roni. There's rumors flying everywhere, but I think Bravo wants to be in the Lindsay Hubbard business and vice versa. So I think she is going to land somewhere, and I think we'll find that out sooner rather than later. But also to my point about Jen Affleck and her eyes, when you spent time with the Summer House girls, was there any vibes that you picked up on that you're like, oh, this person might be a little standoffish, or this person was so exuberant, or this person seemed a little defeated?
I will say their skin is so amazing. Like they were just so gorgeous. Like I will say like Gabby, like, oh my God, doesn't get as much camera time, but like she is so pretty. Like what the hell? No, I mean the main thing, and that's the lead of the story, is like they were just kind of grumbling about like having to like do this candid mini golf shoot. Like it was obviously not my idea for the shoot, but like we played a game of mini golf, and the photographer, who's like very cool and like wanted something really candid, like they were just like, can we just like pose? Like, can't we just like look cute and pose? And I'm like, I get that, as you are people who are used to being very real, very authentic. You just want to look cute right now. And like, obviously Sierra's a professional model. Like I get that. So yeah, that was kind of just like the behind the scenes take. And they were like, I will say like, I chatted with them all. Like we were just like eating and drinking and chatting. They were super, super forthcoming. No one was standoffish at all. They were lovely to talk to. I was like,
they were all extremely nice. I love
my parasocial friends are also like, they're so sweet in real life too. Obviously I'm a reporter. They have to be nice to me unless
well,
they
that's
want me to
weird.
be
Like
mean to
as
them.
a fan of these shows, and also as a professional who does this, makes a living at this, do you get nervous in these scenarios? Because it's like two worlds are meeting when you're talking to people that you watch every week parasocially.
No, I do not get get starstruck at all. And I've been to BravoCon, so I've interviewed many housewives, some weirder than others.
I like that you say that like I've been to BravoCon, like I've been to hell. I've been to the front line. I've been to the front line.
Yeah, I have been to I was the first one too.
I fought in 2 BravoCons in my career.
Yeah, I went to World War BravoCon.
You guys, my God, I was so looking forward to this and it did not disappoint. So I think hopefully you guys will love this as much as I do. But the most important thing is that you go get this book. It's called Be the Bombshell, What Love Island Teaches Us About Dating. We want to support Rebecca Jennings. Go follow her on Instagram. Is there anything else that we can do to support you? Because I want you to keep doing what you're doing. And I think I want a series of these books on other reality. I want to know what Summer House teaches us. That's our next book right there.
No, my dream is like the Real Housewives Guide to Friendship. Like I need to do it.
Also, that would be a 1-page thing of like, don't trust anybody and just don't go outside of your house at all.
Yeah, exactly. Don't speak in the press about your friends. Yeah. No, that was very supportive. Lovely. Had such a great time being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I hope to talk to you again someday. Thanks. Rebecca.
Bye.